25 March 2023, and today I'm going to take you through the response that has been published today by the Office of Ambassador Hubert Angel. This follows the release of the Al Jazeera documentary Gold Mafia 1, in which various allegations were made, and Ambassador Angel has responded to all the allegations that are raised in the current and some of the allegations that are going to be raised in the future documentaries. So there are a number of parts. My belief is that there are 4 parts of Gold Mafia. And I'm going to read through the 23 points so that we have clarity. And today I'm not going to give my opinion. I'm going to be giving my opinion on the documentary during the week. So this statement was produced or published by Dr. Sobona Mtisi, who is the Chief Investment Officer in Ambassador Hubert Angel's office. So I want to quickly go through this list, the way that he presented it. And as I said, during the week, I'm going to come with my opinion and I'm going to break down my thoughts on each and every key player in this documentary and what it means and what is going to happen next. So the statement reads, response to Al Jazeera documentary. Number 1, following the release of the Al Jazeera documentary titled The Gold Mafia, there has been a lot of misinformation, speculation, and deliberate effort to scandalize the presidential envoy and ambassador at large, His Excellency Ambassador Hubert Angel. This statement serves to clarify some of the issues raised. These investors called the ambassador's office and were referred to Mtisi. And I met with them. I was present at all meetings. I know what happened and speak in my own capacity. So this is Mtisi speaking, Dr. Mtisi. To start with, this was not a secret investigation as portrayed to the public. For the record, our meetings with them were never secret, as is now being portrayed to the public. We met in public places and never in hidden places. I'm not at liberty to give reasons because of the legal ramifications if the office of the ambassador at large decides to pursue the legal route. Number 3, Ambassador Angel was appointed by His Excellency President Idi Mnangagwa mainly to facilitate investments into Zimbabwe. The ambassador at large's office receives inquiries from prospective investors and facilitates the formalization of their investments. As the Chief Investment Officer, Mtisi, I engage with potential investors with a view to guide them on the policy and procedures in the sectors of their interests. I also help them to navigate government bureaucracy and facilitate meetings with relevant officials from public and private sectors. The ambassador is never the final port of call for any investor. Our office is one of the key starting points for any investor. The decision to invest or not invest is solely at the discretion of the investor. Importantly, all investments have to be registered via relevant government agencies. Number 4, the criminals in the Al Jazeera documentary approached Ambassador Angel fully aware of his position and integrity. They posed as investors from a company called Phillips Long, Hong Kong, which represented high net worth individuals who were keen to invest outside of Hong Kong. The reason they gave for wanting to move their capital out of Hong Kong was their perceived political risk in Hong Kong. To mitigate their perceived medium to long-term political risk to their capital, they were considering to invest in Zimbabwe. We welcomed the opportunity to bring that capital into Zimbabwe. This was the basis for the meetings that we had with Lee Sing Tong, investment advisor for Phillips Long, and Mr. Lee, the fund manager of Phillips Long, with the view to bring their planned investment to Zimbabwe. They presented a proposal for a casino and gold trading hub at Victoria Falls with the view to register on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. As patriotic Zimbabweans, we thought their planned investment would enhance Victoria Falls as a prime destination for tourism and create much needed employment. This was our view. They never presented themselves as criminals needing help to launder money or do something illegal. 5. Our preliminary meetings with investors is aimed at understanding broadly the sectors that they want to invest in, their capacity to invest, and previous investing experience. In short, it is a light touch verification process to enable our office to facilitate meetings with the relevant government agencies or private sector players. Part of MTC, my meetings with investors, is to assess whether a meeting with the ambassador is warranted. It is at the ambassador's discretion to arrange a meeting with the investors and His Excellency the President as a way of keeping His Excellency informed of new investments coming into the country in line with the ambassador's mandate and Vision 2030. This is the context within which the meetings was held with the potential investors, whom we now know as Al Jazeera journalists. The documentary apparently edits out this context for the obvious reason of wanting to misrepresent facts with the intention of wanting to tarnish the ambassador's image and portray Zimbabwe in a negative image. I leave the fact that this documentary is aired prior to our election to people more qualified than me. That's Mtisi speaking. Number 6, in our meetings with these investors, the discussion shifted to requests of meeting with His Excellency the President. Ambassador Angel questioned the request. The ambassador further told them that his word was as good as the president's word, and it is not necessary to meet the president immediately. He then consulted with the security experts at the organization's disposal with regards to the strange request for the meeting with His Excellency the President. Ambassador immediately blocked the investors' request for a meeting with His Excellency the President. Ambassador's view was that it's never standard practice anywhere in the world that each and every investor who wants to invest in any country meets the president of that country. Given this strange request, Ambassador Angel suspected something was amiss. He consulted with the security experts attached to the office of the ambassador, who then further advised against arranging a meeting with the president. There was a consensus among the team and security experts that these individuals might not be genuine investors. The challenge was what if the team's suspicions were wrong and the country loses billions in investment? On the other hand, what if the team's suspicions were proved right? What were the implications of meeting these investors? After these suspicions, the team switched to red protocol with the decision to proceed with extreme caution, be in the middle and play along, and never to facilitate a meeting between the investors and His Excellency the President. With this knowledge and at the insistence of the investors, Ambassador Angel made several calls to decoys working with our office. In these decoys, it is these decoys who posed as Henrietta Rushwaya, the First Lady and the First Son. The calls to the decoys were made in light of the leading questions asked by the investors. They kept pushing to have the first family in the discussion, especially the First Lady and the President. They even threw in figures to help in the charity organization, with Ambassador Angel refused and even told them that he had his own money. This part was omitted from the documentary. It's just amazing how people were made to believe what has been propagated as gospel. The best these people got are orders from the decoys. They never got the chance to film the president or the first lady because the ambassador was already informed by the security agents prior to getting into the meeting that they didn't have the money they claimed to have. However, as aforementioned, we battled with what if the intelligence is wrong and the country loses much needed investment. The decoys helped in asserting that if there were real investors, we'll be able to get it from their reactions after the call. Number 10, there is no way Ambassador Angel could get hold of the First Lady and the First Son without pre-arrangements and standard security clearance procedures in place in meeting with the First Family. Moreover, the ambassador has never met the First Lady. They never met and never had any direct dealings. It would have been prudent for these investors to verify if the calls were indeed made to the people that the ambassador claimed to be calling. In the meeting, figures were thrown around for arranging meetings, and ambassador played along with the full knowledge that there is no fee required to meet with the president. When we reconvened and reviewed our discussion with these investors, we noted that the discussion has shifted from investment into other issues that had nothing to do with the proposed investment in Zimbabwe. The ambassador was already well informed by the security agents prior to the meeting that they didn't have the money that they claimed to have. The investors failed to produce a confirmation of funds to back their financial capacity to invest in Zimbabwe. Consequently, Ambassador Angel shifted and immediately called off any further meetings and engagement with these investors. He was certain that these were not genuine investors and that these people had another agenda other than investment. This had nothing to do with a failure to pay the fee. The utterances made, so that's number 12, the utterances made by Ambassador Hubert Angel in the documentary appear to suggest that the ambassador carried out illegal activities involving gold trade and movement of cash. But the reality is that the ambassador has never traded in gold or moved cash for anyone. All his flights are through commercial airlines, not private jets. It is clear from the documentary that Ambassador Angel and his team were never shown trading gold. In this regard, the ambassador would be right to challenge anyone with evidence that he once traded gold or moved cash to come forward. He also never traveled into or out of Zimbabwe on a private jet. This information is available to the public. These utterances were made with the aim of getting the true picture of these fake investors, and it became clear that the intelligence operatives were 100% correct. Honestly, it should become common sense that it's physically impossible for Ambassador Angel to carry US 1 billion in a bag. The reactions of these fake investors to this suggestion cemented our view that the investors were not genuine. It is important to note that as much as they say they had 1 billion in cash, they did not say it was dirty money that they needed to be cleaned. The ambassador simply wanted to see if they really had the money they claimed to have. It should be noted, number 14, it should be noted that Ambassador Angel deals with citizens or people-to-people diplomacy. His office is all about individuals making their own independent decisions to invest in the country. This has seen many investors visit Zimbabwe and some investing in the country. It should also be noted that these investors were all directed to relevant state institutions for formalizations of their investment. No investment starts and ends with the meeting with the ambassador. The investors are always referred to the relevant authorities and government institutions. The ambassador has been in business for a long time and knows his way around investors. He helps them to see the truth in the greater nation of Zimbabwe. In his engagements, he focuses more on the economic diplomacy, not political diplomacy. The ambassador pushes all the necessary buttons to convince investors that Zimbabwe is a safe investment destination. He does this by using his own integrity and reputation. At no point does he project himself as a criminal or shady businessman. Number 15. To add to this, all of the investors who were facilitated by the ambassador's office, none can claim to have paid a fee to the ambassador. If anyone out there was made to pay a fee by the ambassador, may he, she, or he come forward with evidence. The ambassador does his work in the most noble and transparent manner. The recorded episode with the fake investors was clearly a well-crafted ploy to trap the ambassador and tarnish his image. Indeed, there are people who are falling for the propaganda, but time will reveal that there's not a single criminal activity that can be attributed to the ambassador in his capacity as an ambassador or as a private citizen. Number 16, there was never direct communication with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. None of the people working at the central bank, at airports, communicated with the team. In fact, there is never a need for that. All genuine investors follow the formal processes used by local and foreign investors. Given that the investors had not indicated any criminal intent, there was never a motive to cut corners or engage in illegal dealings. Number 17, throughout the engagements with these fake investors, and indeed in all other engagements, there was never any link with airport authorities or military bases. There was never any time the president told us to tell them anything. We used our own modus operandi. If anything, everything said and done during the engagements was meant to assure the investors that they were in good hands and their investments are safe. All this and more was taken out of context and scandalized. The ambassador, Angel's role, number 18, the ambassador Angel's role is to market the country with the view of attracting investors into Zimbabwe. His job involves convincing investors that Zimbabwe is indeed open for business and a lucrative investment destination of choice. On top of this, Ambassador Angel is a well-known prophet and preacher. He does not present himself as criminal to investors. As a prophet, Ambassador Angel is accessible to the public through his live broadcasts. There is nothing in these live broadcasts that suggests that he's a criminal. In fact, all Al Jazeera drew on his TV content in an attempt to discredit him. Number 19. In the entire documentary, Ambassador Angel spoke glowingly of the trust the president put in him and his work as a man of God. It is from his background that the Al Jazeera operatives presented themselves as investors, not as criminals. There is no incentive for Ambassador Angel to present himself as a criminal to potential investors. In fact, it does not make any sense to say Zimbabwe is open for business in one line and in the next instance present Zimbabwe as a haven for corruption. All the people making crude allegations against the ambassador cannot provide any evidence showing the ambassador carried cash or gold. They are relying on statements that were manipulated and taken completely out of context. As a matter of fact, when gold was mentioned, he resorted to decoys as a red protocol demanded when intelligence fails to give conclusive check of the concerned people. Further to this, number 20, further to this, there seems to be an inference that there is money being demanded to see the president. That assertion is false. It further shows the manipulation of the clips to say exactly what these people wanted to come out. It should also be noted that in bringing the investors, I, Mtis, was responsible for this team. I can categorically state that no one in the office of the ambassador asked for a facilitation fee of any sort. 21. People working in an office are allowed to partner with investors. The documentary left out this for obvious reason. We don't receive anything from the investors to facilitate the investments. However, anyone who is not connected directly to the office of the ambassador is at liberty to do so. In this documentary, they are involving the comments of Mr. Dulan, who is not and has never been an employee of the office of the ambassador. 22. The Al Jazeera documentary was heavily edited to cut out some of the words that the ambassador said. The documentary also negates the context in which these discussions occurred. The discussion was supposed to be a meeting prior to meeting with the president. It was in many ways the opportunity for the ambassador to gauge the seriousness of the investors and the authenticity of their claims. When it became clear that they had nothing the ambassador blocked them from ever meeting the president. If the ambassador did not use his own tactics to probe them and expose their fakery, the president could have met with them and recorded, and was going to be recorded as part of the documentary. In hindsight, I believe it would have been better if we had taken them to the president, because all this narrative of tarnishing the president would not have succeeded. We have taken several investors to the president, and this conduct around investors is always exceptionally professional and transparent. I firmly believe that if we had taken them to the president, they would have left with no toxic narrative to spread. In conclusion, it should be noted that what we initially assumed were criminals that we were vetting before meeting the president turned out to be undercover journalists. The office of the ambassador respects the role of journalists in society as they help to bring accountability. However, the use of entrapment and deception is a very poor form of journalism that mostly relies on asking leading questions and trying to push words into the subject's mouth. In the end, the Al Jazeera journalists have all the power to control the narrative by selectively removing some of the statements from the people they investigated. There is a lot of material that they omitted, which could have provided a better view of the real motives and intentions of the ambassador when he made some of the statements being used to scandalize him. Dr. Sobona Mtisi, Chief Investment Officer at the Office of the Ambassador Hubert Angel, April 21 to October 2022. So you can see that he used to work there until October 2022, and he's left this office, but he wrote this letter. This was released today. So I guess he's talking about this in hindsight. And there is new information here, which is very interesting, particularly the fact that they're saying they were using decoys. They were not really talking. The people who are talking in the documentary are not Henrietta Rushwaya. They are not the First Lady. They are not the son of President Idi Mnangagwa. This is new information. That means we've got a certain episode that is coming where we are going to hear voices of these people. We have new information that Ambassador Angel has previously taken investors to President Mnangagwa. And I hope that one of these investors that were taken was also not recording and is not one of the journalists. So we might end up with an episode where one investor is being taken. This is a possibility based on what he said here. We also have information on the facilitation fee, that the meeting with the president failed after the facilitation fee demand was not met. But the ambassador here is saying he has never asked for a facilitation fee, and the fact that they did not meet the president was not to do with the facilitation fee, but rather to do with the vetting. There's also information here that says the intelligence agencies already indicated that these were not genuine investors. These people had no money. And Ambassador Angel and his office then proceeded, because they thought the country would lose money. These guys had a lot of money. So Ambassador Angel believed that these guys had the money, whereas the intelligence agencies were saying these people had no money. And Ambassador Angel is going to great lengths to describe his role and the role of his office, and also that he does not travel in private jets when he comes to Zimbabwe. He probably uses private jet somewhere else, but he's never used a private jet while coming or leaving Zimbabwe. So there's no way that he has been involved in illegal activities. These are the new information that we've got. We'll proceed and continue to talk about a lot of other issues during the week. There is a lot that is coming out here, and obviously there is a reason why all this information is coming out now, and we'll be going deeper as the episodes are presented. But I want to start by going through what we already know. Very, very soon, we'll be going in detail to say what is it that we know and back it up with analysis. So it's very, very interesting. Thank you very much. I want to keep this very, very short, and we'll be back again with an update very, very soon. Thank